Welcome into the Draftaholics Podcast, a fantasy football show.
Well, hello and welcome back to the second episode of the Draftaholics Podcast. My name is Matt Savoca. I'm your host at Draftaholic, and we finally have our full team of Draftaholics, our third member able to make it today. Let's welcome William Spinato.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, George and Matt. Thank you.
You can find him at W Spinato on Twitter.
That's 2 N's, 1 T.
You got
And
that.
0 W's.
Ooh.
Man, that wasn't staged at all.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Wow, the call out.
Okay.
We do rehearse a little bit. Of course, making the jokes over there to my left, that would be George Sloten.
What's up, everybody? At George Sloten on Twitter.
Well, you can find us all at Draftaholics Pod at Twitter. And guys, we have a really, really great show for you today. But before we get into all of that good analysis, all that fun stuff, I do have a quick question of the hour for you. So here in my wonderful home neighborhood of Washington Heights, we have a very strange combination restaurant. We have a restaurant that combines Chinese and Tex-Mex food. It's actually very good. That's what we had for lunch today. So guys, if you're drafting at the 101 of a Chinese/Tex-Mex food draft, I'll start to my left here, George.
Oh.
What's your 101 in that draft?
I have to be going chicken with broccoli on that. And it's going to be a sweet chicken with broccoli, not tangy, not spicy. It's going to be a sweet chicken with broccoli. It gets you your protein, your veggies. You're getting rice with that. And you're definitely getting wonton soup and an egg roll.
Right.
It's like the whole... It's like, you can't have a team without tight end. You can't have Chinese without an egg roll, right?
Right. Even if you don't really like it, you gotta have that.
Exactly.
You don't really need it.
You may be
complete
vegetarian,
meal.
but you're getting a pork egg roll.
And yeah, especially, egg roll and a soup too. If you had seen William's face after deciding not to get a soup,
Yeah,
I think
you're right.
we would all be getting soup with our whatever 101 at Chinese Tex-Mex.
Exactly.
That lunch special came with, a one side option of rice and another side option of soda or soup. That was what came as the second option. It was strange. Yeah, I went with beef and broccoli today, so I have to say I'm a fan of your chicken and broccoli choice. But I didn't try the Tex-Mex part, but I think I'd have to go with the standby of the burrito. I don't know. I feel like at any delivery joint, getting a burrito is a safe pick. You get lots of, it's a well-rounded meal all in one tortilla shell. You really can't beat that.
Here's the problem with that, though, Matt, and William, I'm going to shoot this right back to you. A burrito has many different things in it. Like, the more things in a burrito, the better it is. But that's the more variables. More things you can
More things to
stale,
go wrong, more things to
to
get sick on.
expire,
Yeah.
more things to get sick on. So I'm going to say no to the burrito and shoot to Matt for his answer.
Yeah, as usual, I disagree with both of you vehemently. I'm going with the General So's chicken.
General.
I actually don't know how to pronounce the General's name. I've always heard Sue, or it's not my native tongue, but it's that sweet, tangy chicken. I like a little spice, so I would have a little bit spicier. We have 4 options at our wonderful restaurant, and I chose spicy.
It's so hard to find out the real name.
It is so hard.
Indeed, so hard.
That's George Sloten with the puns. He rehearses those days in advance, folks.
quite
All
embarrassing.
right. Well,
I got puns, too.
we have a fantastic show for you guys. And before we get into this week's draft, of course, we've done another best ball draft. We're going to break that down pick by pick, show you our entire roster. But we thought with this second episode, in a little bit of the same vein that we did in that first episode, we want to talk about wide review a little bit. We want to see what the difference is when we are thinking about a team as a whole, as opposed to a player. We see so much technical analysis of these players over the course of an offseason, but really when we get in the draft room, it's a fundamental analysis of our entire team. Do you know what I mean?
Sure,
there?
absolutely.
I started drafting differently when I started thinking about how I'm actually going to play that team throughout the year. Fantasy football, everyone is obsessed with the draft. I heard you guys say on the first episode, it's your favorite day of the year. It's like Christmas, and I love the draft. I can't wait for it. I do tons of prep work. But when you're in the draft room and making your selection, it's not always the very first thing you think about. How am I going to deal with my roster and my lineup construction throughout the entire year? Once you start focusing on that, you start to be able to set ADP aside and things like value-based drafting, which can help you understand the game and draft better as a whole. But in the long run, you really need to consider your actual lineup throughout the season.
Sure, absolutely. One thing I'd like to also note is that the three of us have all different... We have some similarities as well, but we really have different draft styles and how we approach our rankings and when we get actually into the draft room, when there's 10 seconds left on the clock, I think we sort of differ in
Our
terms
thought
of...
processes are so different.
We were talking about this earlier. I sort of go from... we all have those analytics. We all have all those numbers, in our head somewhere. I tend to go with more of a gut feeling at the end of it. I mean, obviously, everything I'm analyzing all the different numbers and the possibilities and all the different outcomes, but I want you to always think about your gut feeling. If you're stuck between player A and player B, sometimes it's okay to throw those numbers away for just a second.
And just feel a little bit.
Just feel.
The NFL is still an art when it comes to predicting and projecting players. And so there is room for feeling. There's room for emotion as long as you have a logic and a strategy behind your general thought behind your roster construction or your thoughts behind all of the rosters you create. If you're like us and doing multiple drafts in an off season, there's a strategy behind the entire process, the entire, dare I say, portfolio. We're excited to get into our second draft. We're going to play draft once again from the Draft app. Of course, you can always find us at Draftaholics Pod on Twitter, at Draftaholics Pod on Instagram, and we use the Sleeper app to post our draft boards to make it easier for you guys to see what we did, so you don't have to stare at our mugs in full screen the entire several minutes that we're on there for.
But boy, would you be lucky if you could.
You would.
We should get our photos on the Sleeper app, just right on the background. Okay.
Yeah, call your local congressman. Here we go. So we start off David Johnson from the 104, and we take Rob Gronkowski at the 209, followed by Joe Mixon, Demaryius Thomas, Alshon Jeffrey, and Jarvis Landry. Our trio of wide receivers that we got in the 4, 5, 6 range, I'm obsessed with that.
I feel really good about it, yeah. Especially not starting with a wide receiver at all. I feel like that combination is going to give us a lot of stability.
Yep, we stuck to your one tight end, one onesie rule, so that's good. Then we followed up with Kerryon Johnson, Drew Brees, not so late round quarterback, Ty Montgomery, DJ Moore, the rookie for Carolina, Matt Breida, the backup running back of Kyle Shanahan's 49ers, Paul Richardson, the possible one for Washington, Donta Foreman, possibly injured, but definitely with upside there after seeing his rookie year for the Houston Texans. Tyrell Williams, the best ball favorite at 1409, followed by our second quarterback at Mitch Trubisky at the 1504. We finished up the draft of the last 3 picks with Christian Kirk, the rookie out of Oklahoma State University, if I'm getting that right. And he's with the Cardinals. It's probably their number 3 option. And then we finished with Luke Wilson, tight end for the Detroit Lions, and Lamar Jack. Luke Wilson, Owen Wilson's phenomenal brother. This is 2 L's, but maybe that's just the stage name. We don't know that. I literally can't name a single thing he's in.
I'm going to Google it.
Not even his wife.
Like, his IMDb is full of movies that everyone's seen, and I can't name a single thing he's in. So we finished the draft.
He was in Old School.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's the actor.
He's
the
exactly.
Yeah.
And Luke Wilson was in that too, right? All right, guys. So, just like in every episode, after going through the team construction, we want to look at a specific round or turn and really dig into why we made the decisions we made. So, we're going to take a look at the 14th and 15th round. So, that's Tyrell Williams and Mitch Trubisky, who ended up being our pick.
In this particular draft, Mike Williams went 4 rounds earlier. So, I do have to say I like the pick in terms of value, because if you're looking for someone on what we can't deny is going to be an explosive LA Chargers offense this year, with someone like Phil Rivers throwing the ball to you, you want one of those red zone threats. I mean, we don't know what Virgil Green's going to be. Hunter Henry went down. We've got opportunity for someone, whether it's Mike or Tyrell, I don't know. He was also our 6th wide receiver. But that's what you're looking for in those late round wide receivers in best ball, is someone that can pop maybe even just 2 or 3 times. But if that guy can be slotted into your lineup, that could be the difference of 3 or 4 positions on the overall leaderboard on that week of draft.
I can't find a single stat on. I didn't zone out. I just went through about 7 different sites trying to confirm if I found anything I liked about him. He's got a nice haircut. No, I know that the wide receiver 6 in a best ball draft on draft.com isn't the place to find your wide receiver 1, your wide receiver 2, or your every week starter. I just don't like the pop in Tyrell Williams that you do. I think that there are wide receivers after him. Christian Kirk, Martavis Bryant, Eric Decker, Quincy Enunwa.
Chris Godwin, John Brown.
Yeah, I mean,
They all went within that range.
They all went within that range, and we picked Tyrell before those 5 or 6 names, and I would have rather any of those 5 or 6.
All right. So before George tenses up every muscle in his body, we move on to Mitch Trubisky.
Oh.
George, please tell me you like this pick.
I cannot stand him.
Are you gonna leave? What's going on?
I don't know.
His turn.
Look, we've had so many other better turns. Like Rose's turn was so much better than this.
We're not bringing Gypsy into
All right,
this.
we're not bringing Gypsy into this. That's fine. Andy Dalton was still on the board between Mitch Trubisky and Andy Dalton. And Matt's going to disagree with me, and let's honestly, this is William's first episode. I don't care what he thinks. Andy Dalton...
He's here, though.
He's here in spirit. Andy Dalton was the QB 17 last year, okay? I extrapolated Mitch Trubisky's stats, were he to have started all 16 games. He started 12?
13.
13.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, 12, you're right.
12. He would have scored 178 points in our fantasy league, our home league, which is very, very similar to Draft.com's league. That would have put him at the QB 24. Andy Dalton, on the other hand, is going as the QB 24, but Andy Dalton is a veteran quarterback in the same exact offensive scheme with a non-rookie running back in Joe Mixon, who's bound for success, the stud of A.J. Green, Gio Bernard, the list goes on. I'm taking Andy Dalton over Mitch Trubisky. You probably like that same pop that Trubisky has where he can outperform Andy Dalton.
I'm going to buy more into the fact that Chicago has a seriously improved offense this year with Matt Nagy. It's a completely different game. They have more skill position players available. Trubisky was not trusted with anything besides one play last year. A read option where he rolled out to the right and there were 2 receivers slanting across the middle and he tossed the ball.
Can we agree that Taylor Gabriel and Anthony Miller and Allen Robinson are better than Kendall Wright and Tanner Gentry?
Yes.
And
He didn't have anything.
first-year player Adam Shaheen.
He had an uncreative offensive
right.
mind behind, calling the plays. It's a totally different team. He was already completing 60% of his passes. Plus, he had a huge floor of his rushing yards. He over only 12 games, he was the 13th in rushing yards in terms of quarterbacks. That's a floor that I'll take in terms of backing up Drew Brees. I feel comfortable with him slotting in on Drew Brees' bye weeks, and I think he might have the possibility of outscoring him every once in a while. But most importantly, talking about strategy in this draft as a whole, because we took Brees relatively early. I mean, he was our 7th quarterback off the board, and we didn't have to look to quarterback for that multitude of runs. Like, if you look on the full draft board, it's a sea of red between where we took Brees and where we took Trubisky. Right. We didn't have to think about that position at all. Then we were in a great place to take someone who possibly has this huge upside that at least Matt and I think might happen. George, you can be on your own little Andy Dalton team over there. But I'll take that. I'll take that any day. And most importantly, I'm really happy with how we played the strategy of the game and waited to take another quarterback.
Does your feeling about Andy Dalton change because we drafted Joe Mixon in the 3rd?
I think in a redraft league, I probably would not have taken Andy Dalton just because the negative what's it called, the
correlation.
The negative correlation.
Negative correlation between drafting a quarterback 1 and the running back 1.
Yeah.
Proves that there's a negative correlation there.
One of the strategies that I use is late in drafts, especially in a best ball format, you actually chase those slightly negative, mostly random correlations. A correlation of negative 0.08, which is negative 8%, is essentially 0. It's essentially random. So that negative number, though, scares people away. Use that to your advantage.
Yeah,
Explore the wide tails, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it's time for a new segment. Not sure what that was, George. That's the quick shot symbol.
Okay.
And George telegraphed it. This is called the Draftaholics Quick Shots. Quick shots where we give our little rapid fire, fast takes about some of the players in our draft this time around. We have a couple of stats for each player. We're going to go really fast before we get you out of here and on to the rest of your day or evening. So the first segment we're going to do is your favorite pick of the draft.
Favorite pick.
Jarvis Landry went as the wide receiver 30 in our draft. He's going to be a wide receiver 2. No doubt about it. He got 27% target share in Miami. Probably not going to happen in Cleveland, right? So I was doing a couple of numbers where he gets just 20% of the target share with it, which I think is totally fair. The new Todd Haley offense, I think they're going to throw the ball 550 times. He gets 110
Steelers
targets.
light, essentially.
Steelers light, yeah, exactly. He's going to get 110 targets at a 70% catch rate. Let's just be really pessimistic about it. Let's say he gets 80 catches. His career average is 10 yards per catch. So let's say he goes 80, 800 yards, and 8 touchdowns, like he's been averaging for the majority of his career. He's going to average about 11 points per game. That's putting him at wide receiver 16, 18, around Mike Evans last year, Juju Smith-Schuster last year. At wide receiver 30, thumbs up.
Booyah. One of my favorite stats for any position is the wide receiver racer stat. That's receiver air conversion rate. That is total yards divided by air yards. Consistently one of the best racer wide receivers in the entire game. Love it. My favorite pick, Ty Montgomery. He was the third running back for the Packers. We've talked about this before. We love the third running back for the Packers. Last year, Montgomery was RB21 in points per game. We forget that he was an RB2. He was getting the rock with a consistent touch load for the Packers, especially in those Aaron Rodgers weeks. The first 5 weeks of the season, he was injured in week 6 against Minnesota. He was also number 11 in light front carry rate. That's number of carries or a percentage of your carries with 6 men in the box or less. We all know why. Aaron Rodgers.
So my favorite pick was Rob Gronkowski. I really have to say that in the best ball, I love the flexibility that getting the best player at one of these onesie positions gives you for the rest of the draft. I've always Gronk. I have him in the one best ball that I've done so far this year. I already have Gronk, but I do know that it's firmly on my strategy going forward.
So I think. What's your feeling? You've had a lot of feelings today, George. Keep on going.
Feelings.
That quick shot went right to your gut.
I'm nervous.
The pick that makes you nervous.
Gronk. What have you felt good about?
Lunch. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but this is their past medical charts, okay? It's Evil Knievel. Broken forearm, concussion, hammy pull, right knee surgery, fractured vertebra, torn ACL, torn MCL, concussion, broken left forearm surgery, then breaks the arm again. So your options are Evil Knievel and Rob Gronkowski.
I'm going to assume that's Knievel. I might be wrong here.
I'm going to have to go with Knievel as well.
Okay, it's Gronkowski. So if you wait 5 rounds to get Evan Ingram, then you need to go back and say, well, I got Gronkowski. What could I have gotten with Gronkowski and waited for Ingram?
I do agree with that analysis. There was something to lose. There's an opportunity lost by taking a second-round tight end. Yes, he is injury susceptible. What I've done this year is looked at the typical rates of injury for tight end ones, especially the early tight end ones, 1 through 4, and the average is about 12 games played. So the fact that he's at 11 plus games played, he's really just a typical tight end one.
I had to go with Kerryon Johnson here. Now, it's kind of strange because I am excited about the prospects of Kerryon Johnson. I think he's a super talent, and I think that the Lions are going to figure out a way to use him this year. The reasons why I'm nervous is I think that's going to take a little bit of time for him to be established in the offense. And most importantly, I think he's going to get sniped at the goal line a lot. I think we're going to have many opportunities Exactly. I think we're going to have many opportunities where we see Kerryon bust open a 40-yard run just to get taken out of the game and have Blunt in there. Plus, Theo Riddick still exists. He's been one of the most reliable pass-catching running backs in the league. He's going to be in there on third down. We don't know how Kerryon is at pass blocking. They have someone who's been doing it confidently for years. If I were the Lions, I would keep Theo Riddick in there until he can't do it anymore, especially since it's been working for him. He's trusted by Matt Stafford. So it's not that I'm not excited about Kerryon's talent. Trust me, I'm looking forward to him going off just as much as everyone else is, but it makes me nervous that this year is not going to be the year and that we're going to be kind of let down. It's going to be a tease.
Wasn't there a running back who got drafted by Detroit in the second round?
Oh, boy.
And then come preseason, he had a few good runs against the Jets, and all of a sudden...
Something about it. Abdullah?
There was, his initials might have been AA. I think, where did we take him? As our third running back in a string of RBFFs, as we like to call them, running back flex flyers, in a line of Johnson, Montgomery, Burita, and Foreman. I think we do have some overall upside in that clump of players.
I do like it. It just makes me nervous.
I want to tell you about the pick that makes me the most nervous, and it's a player that, as a prospect, I was just obsessed with during the draft process. It's DJ Moore.
Maryland?
Yeah, you of course love him out of Maryland. His ability to just be the Maryland offense was just incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
However, that point-per-game volatility of Devin Funchess is really masking an underlying desire, I believe, for them to make him a true number 1 receiver. But I think, in reality, Torrey Smith is going to be a pain in our side. Like, he's going to have like a
Yeah.
couple of big weeks that we thought, oh, that ball is for DJ Moore. But Torrey Smith is the one with the 60-yard bomb from Cam, and it's going to drive us nuts.
But what I'm excited about is an actual wide receiver one being there. Funchess's production was just a side effect of no one else being able to follow up. But here's what I really want to hear about. That chorizo burrito. Matt, defend your pick.
Defend your pick.
We've talked a lot about coaches and coordinators in this episode, even more than I'm comfortable with. But I do have to say that this Kyle Shanahan RB2 situation is something that I like to chase when it's the right price. The thing I care about as far as height and weight goes with running back is BMI. And so when you combine those two height-weight combinations, you get a 28.8 BMI for Breida and 28.7 for Tevin Coleman. Matt Breida ran a 4.4440. What do you think Tevin Coleman's 40 was?
4.43.
4.44.
Oh,
Matt Breida benched 23 reps, and Tevin Coleman benched 22 reps. Now, this is a similar style player, and I believe Kyle Shanahan is going to use them similarly. Last 5 weeks of the season, the Jimmy G weeks, if you will, he had 13 opportunities to Hyde's 22, 12 opportunities to Hyde's 15 the next week. In weeks 16 and 17, again, 12 opportunities to Hyde's 24, and then 13 to 19. This is not just a part-time player. This is a role player, and I just love the fact that Kyle Shanahan has 2 Georgia Southern running backs to lead his running back backfield. That's amazing to me.
What is that? 1, 2, 3,
4
4.
men!
Oh!
That's 4-man Donta. I'm a huge Donta Foreman fan. For all the Lamar Miller truthers out there, God bless you. This is the year where they're going to be switching, okay? I know we're going into today with some news. Donta Foreman could be starting out the year on the PUP list, which would take him out through week 6 at the earliest. So I'm going to talk to you about Donta Foreman in 2 ways. Let's say he plays 10 games, Donta Foreman, and let's say Donta Foreman plays 16 games. You have to take the risk in that he may not even make it to week 6. But there's also, we don't even know if he may play week 1. And if that's the case, that's great. Donta Foreman was the 51st running back taken off of our draft board. Okay? Donta Foreman, last year, in his small sample size, averaged 4.2 yards per carry to Lamar Miller's 3.7. A great stat of Donta Foreman that I really like is that he was averaging 13.8 yards per catch, per reception, to Lamar Miller's 9.1. So if Donta Foreman plays 10 games, I'm averaging him at about 150 touches in that. I think he can get that 15-touch range if he plays. And even if they're at a timeshare, I think that's totally plausible. So that has him at about 630 yards. I'm giving him between 3 and 4 receptions per game as well, about 13 yards. That's going to put him at around 11 or 12 fantasy points per game, which is the RB17.
Way above his draft price.
That's better than Alex Collins last year, Jerick McKinnon, Marshawn Lynch, and Tevin Coleman. I think for where we got him, he was a complete steal. I don't think you necessarily have to draft him at the RB17. You definitely have to put in his health risk and his availability at this time.
And we just don't know if people are going to recover from Achilles injury the way that ACL injuries are being recovered from in these days.
Absolutely.
You know, we definitely submit to the late round quarterback strategy. We understand that you shouldn't be drafting a quarterback early, that the points are going to be available in the later rounds. But then when we came to the 8th round, we already kind of had our starters. We're looking at the flex positions, the skill position players available, and you just start to kind of get this feeling of a sickness in your stomach. You're like, I don't want to draft any of these guys.
Like you just ate the 101 at your Tex-Mex Chinese draft.
Exactly.
A little too fast.
It's not going well.
Yeah.
That's when you start to turn for quarterback. We were able to turn our focus completely to the skill position players we could get at value in rounds 9 and following. I will stand by that Drew Brees pick in 8 any day. I feel like it's great value. I don't feel like we veered off of the late round QB path at all. We secured someone who's going to be able to sit in that starting quarterback position for our whole year and feel really darn good about it.
And that's a great segue.
Roster Construction Corner.
I think it was really about the strategy of the roster overall. I think you did a great job of explaining why Drew Brees can actually fit in the late round QB strategy for you. We have talked already that we skipped what we refer to as the QB run, that 10 through 12 range of QB 9 through QB 18 that You hear every analyst in the world say, well, I only have about 12 points of difference. It's only about if 2 touchdowns move, then all of a sudden my QB 18 becomes a QB 9.
Exactly.
Yeah, we just didn't take part in that. So what we did is we went high-low. We took Drew Brees at QB 7, which honestly is below his ADP. That's cheaper than he usually goes. Andrew Luck is the outlier pick here, going closer to where he was going in previous years prior to injury. He also went after Carson Wentz. So from a construction standpoint, QB 7 and then QB 17, that's late round QB to me.
Yeah.
I just have to add, because we get to talk about Drew Brees, there are 9 seasons where a quarterback has had 5,000 yards. Drew Brees has 5 of them.
So Luke Wilson, Hollywood Walk of Fame, he was our second to last pick of the draft, and he was our second tight end off the board for our team construction. We had Rob Gronkowski. Obviously, we're hoping for at least 12 super solid games out of Rob Gronkowski. I think that's totally plausible. And so, while not everybody's going to take a tight end very early, they're going to be struggling in the tight end category.
Consistency-wise.
We're going to hope for Luke Wilson to pick up the slack some of the other weeks. 6'5", 250 pounds, 4.51 40-yard dash, 23 bench reps, and a 38-inch vert. There are only 6 tight ends, including him, that have ever done posted those numbers at the combine, including Jimmy Graham, Greg Olsen,
Your buddy,
my buddy Jimmy Graham, my buddy Greg Olsen, and my buddy Jordan Cameron, with 2 men from the World War time period.
who truly was a great prospect. His career was cut short by head injuries.
Absolutely, but I'm taking Luke Wilson at that time. I think it's we needed that extra tight end, and we got him. We were stuck between him and Virgil Green and Antonio Gates and Jake Butt, and we ended up taking Luke Wilson. He's got the build for it. He's been sitting behind Zach Miller and Jimmy Graham for a while. It's just time to shine. Show me some numbers, Matt Stafford.
In a best ball, I love to leave the first 8 rounds with at least 4 starting running backs. In this case, we zagged a little bit. We ended up getting Gronk. We took Brees in the 8th. We had 3 running backs. So for us to be able to slot in a guy like Ty Montgomery as our 4th running back, it felt like we made up for whatever part of my strategy kind of went out the window there. Not to mention, Green Bay loves him. Last year, he played only 8 games, and somehow he had 22% of their running back carries. Not to mention, he played a lot in the receiving back role. So for him to get the ball 22% of the times, playing only half the games, that's huge. Plus those 23 receptions over top. Give me Aaron Rodgers, one of 3 running backs any day, especially in a best ball. We don't have to bank on him scoring every single week, but I feel like his pops are going to be big, and they're actually going to be plentiful. There's going to be lots of good weeks.
5.8 targets per game through the first 5 games. That's all of Aaron Rodgers' full games. The only people who did better than Ty Montgomery during that time, we're talking the elite pass catchers and the elite running backs. Your Tariq Cohens, your Duke Johnsons, LaShawn McCoy, Le'Veon Bell, Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey. That's great company.
And he's our RB4. That's the most important part. Construction-wise, it's not scary at all to take him in.
I love these quick shot takes. We're going to get even quicker, even more shottier with them. We're going to be explaining, basically breaking down in a minute sense, all of the draft picks in a more specific sense in this way.
Sure.
That's going to do it for the second episode of the Draftaholics. We're so grateful that you guys have checked us out today. Please follow us at Draftaholics Pod on Twitter and at Draftaholics Pod on Instagram. I'm at Draftaholic. To my right,
William Spinato at W Spinato, 2 N's, 1 T on Twitter.
And to my left,
At George Slotin, not at William Spinato, so not all those N's and T's.
yeah, and he hates Tyrell Williams more than you do.
And also Mitch Trubisky.
He hates the turn, guys. You guys have a great week. Keep drafting. You're only as good as your last pick. See you later.
Thanks for listening to the Draftaholics Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Draftaholics Pod.